Welcome to United Real Therapy, people. Welcome to United Real Therapy. Real Therapy. Therapy Army, where are you? We've just been on Saeed TV, people, where we've been just having a bit of a banter, a bit of a laugh with Man City fan Steve. So big up to every one of you. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, people. But welcome on a sombering day. Very interesting day. A lot of things happening. But first of all, to get it off, we want to mark and commemorate the Busby Babes and commemorate what a horrific day in Manchester United history. On the 5th of February, 1958, Manchester United players, journalists from Manchester, 28 people lost their lives, including 8 players from Manchester United in the Munich air disaster. It was a Thursday, 6th of February, 1958. We've just been down to Old Trafford today to commemorate the 65th. Ten Hag was there, Harry Maguire was there, all of the captains from the different teams in Manchester United teams were there, and the managers were there, and big up to everybody who turned out today for that commemoration. Full house, outside on the forecourt and near the Munich tunnel. It was a sight to behold, and it was brilliant commemoration, brilliant tributes being paid to Manchester United legends and the legacy of Sir Matt Busby, that great maverick, that great genius who foresaw the ideas of competing in the European Cup, and then 10 years later leaving his deathbed to go in and winning it. And that's why we are who we are, people. Manchester United is the most incredible football club in this world. Why? Because of the history, the legacy of coming from absolute ashes to glory within a decade. There he is. There he is. You can see him there on this side of me. You can see him there on that side of me. Sir Matt Busby. That's why you can see him. Man like him. So big up everybody. And then obviously, R.I.P. to all those affected by the tragedy and the earthquake, horrific earthquake that took place in Syria and in Turkey. I mean, if you imagine being a Syrian people, like you've just gone through a decade of war-torn, the country, parts of it is occupied by the US, and then earthquake happens, and then in Turkey as well, so many people are stranded today under the rubble. The last time I counted, the death roll was over 20,000, and they're saying over that the 40,000 people could be trapped dead or alive under these rubbles. If you've seen some of the footage, you think it was from a disaster movies. It's that scary, but what you're watching is actually real footage. So our hearts, our minds are with the Turkish people, with the Syrian people, and everybody affected. And also, you know what? Our hearts is with the victims of the victims and families. Sorry, the families of the Busby Babes and everybody that was involved in that Munich air disaster. So big up to you, people. We just had one of the shows of the shows, mate. I'm telling you, the best.
Hey, I'm just catching my breath right now, man.
Listen, the best podcast. So please, after you watch this, go and check it out. I went there cooking, people, mate. Old type Big Steve, mate.
I think is that the first stream you've
How are you doing anyway? How are you doing?
Man,
have you caught your breath?
Yeah, I've caught my breath, man. It's crazy, man. Having to moderate that and whatnot. Listen, man. Crazy. Lauren, they just come and, you know what I mean, unleashing, like attack, you know what I mean? Like press. But yeah, man, listen, man. Crazy stream. Big up to the community. I echo your thoughts as well. Sad day, man. And I can't lie to you. When I heard about it, I was like, wow, man. Earthquake for me is probably the most like devastating. That and floods, is, you know, and stuff like that, you know, natural disasters is so sad, man. So, you know, big up to the community and anyone from Syria and Turkey, you know, thoughts are with you, man. And it's and like I said, you know what I mean, just have to just keep your families close, man. Tell them you love them, man, because you don't know when they're gonna be there, man. So yeah, man, big up to everybody.
Understand that life is short, innit?
And life is short, man.
When Mother Nature takes hold, there ain't nobody can help you. You don't care if you're a billionaire, if you're a trillionaire. If Mother Nature gets hold of you, means nothing, people. You just, that's it. You're gone. Mother Nature, it's like floods. It's like he said in it, it's like the tsunamis, earthquakes, you know what I mean? Like tornadoes, rip through everything. Mother Nature, man. That's why you got to respect Mother Nature, man. And don't
Tom said send the link. Tom said send the link.
I've sent a link already, Tom, on Twitter. Yeah. Have I not sent it?
Might send his other Twitter.
Okay.
It was a nice day today. It wasn't that as cold as what I think.
Now, actually, you know what, Said? It was cold. You know, the sun was quite deceiving. Actually, the sun was quite deceiving, man.
Yeah, last night was cold. Bloody hell, man! I went for a walk last night. My God, man, it was blitz last night. But yeah, man, listen, crazy day, man. When you heard about that news, Northern, the Man City news, what were you doing? Like, because when I seen that news, I was like, what? First of all, I thought, oh, don't give me these kind of like false reports where this random journalist puts it out there. But when you actually see it's from the Financial Times and you see how credible the report was and how extensive the report was, I was like, boy, this is serious, man. This is proper serious. So let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens, and let's see if the Premier League have any cojones. You know what I mean? Because if they don't have any cojones and they buy into Man City and they give him a simple fine, then the whole thing's probably is pointless. I don't know what you think, Norton, but if they just give him a simple fine, then the whole thing's pointless. It really is.
I'm telling you, 100%. Tom, have you got it?
You there?
Yeah, I'm trying to come back. Yeah, listen, Saeed, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so listen, like everything I've said on the Straight Jacket podcast, people go and check out the Straight Jacket podcast. 100, 200 and what? 212, 13?
216, I think.
Wow, 216. Yeah. 216. It was hell of a one. I broke it down then. I broke it down. Like I said, if everything I've said on that Straight Jacket podcast, I'm happy to grovel on camera. You can get your camera. We'll meet Big Steve out there outside Etihad, and I'll apologize to every City fan and Man City as a football club. But I'm telling you now, Saeed, because the football regulator is on his way. The Premier League are not going to try to prove they can get their house in order. So if nothing comes of this, it'd be the biggest disaster ever. Let me just check. Saeed, can you send it to him, please? Can you send the link to him?
Okay, let me send it to him now. 1 second.
Because there's something wrong on my Twitter. It's not happening.
Okay, let me send it to him
now. It is crazy, people, but welcome to United Real. We're going to do a Leeds United, Manchester United, Leeds United previews. Well, coming up for you people. I'm still fuming that Man United didn't appeal the Casemiro red card for me. It was the
Why though?
It was the biggest disgrace ever. And for me, it's like you can manipulate still shots and slow motion with anything. To me, all I needed to know was that Casemiro wasn't doing anything too bad because of the reactions of Hughes. Hughes would have gone down, held his throw, would have been rolling around if Casemiro really hurt him. Casemiro was just holding him up not to get involved with Anthony. That's what he was doing. So for me,
you know what it is though, Norton? He needs to be careful. He needs to you can't do that though, Norton. You can't. I'm sorry, Norton. I know. Listen, it's not like I said. You know, when he grabbed him, it's more from the collar rather than the neck. But when you put your arms on it, you're giving the referee and the people in the VAR room any chance for them to go at United. Okay. You're giving them ammunition, and this is the problem.
Okay. Let me answer this. So listen, football melee. So you know, big melee.
Melee.
Right? It's part of a football. It's part of football culture because teammates, as team against a team, you're there to protect your teammates. So if you're right by what you said, right? So why wasn't Ayew sent off? Why wasn't Schlupp sent off? Saeed, why are you taking one specific thing on the outskirts without the full context because of the time it's got to be taken to make the decision? Why are you doing that? Why wasn't it? If you're going to do that, give both of them a yellow card and get on with the game like he did with Schlupp and Anthony.
No, both of them a red card.
Saeed, okay. The idea to me, Casemiro was the only red card on that football pitch. It's a disgrace.
Yes, I agree with you.
Disgrace. So for me, that's why you are appealing on the purpose. Why am I guilty? And it's another game or another time, a week later. It's exactly the same incident with 17-man melee on that football pitch in that corner. And at the end of the day, Saeed, you don't take one snippet of like 10 seconds and make a decision on a red card. Because you know why, Saeed? Let me say something. He didn't kick him because the way he's wearing gloves and the camera angle, it looks like he's got him by the throat. And you know what? If you let it run for 5 more seconds, he's holding him by one arm. Ayew's punching Fred, right? Punching Fred, and then Stop grabbing Anthony. Sorry. It's
Let me ask you a
exactly
question
the same
though.
way.
The thing is, though, and this is why David De Gea was very angry. They stop it at the moment where he's got the grab in the, the neck. They don't see the full context of what's happening, and that's the difference. If we judged every single tackle and every single decision by a photo, we could have about 100 red cards. But you've got to do video action. You've got to have context. How did he grab him? Where was it grabbed? And then that should be where your kind of idea and your decision should come from, not where the guy and the referee just had a still photo. Of course, you're going to send him off, and that's where the decision came in. They looked at one specific area, and also he didn't look at other specific areas. They didn't look at anywhere else. They just had one idea, and that was it. And that's the problem.
Saeed, everything you said and everything I said was the right moment. That's why I'm still fuming, because you can't take a Snapchat, win a game in a melee, and take one part of it and then come up with your own conclusions. So for me, you either send 6 players off, 4 players off, or you sent nobody off. And that's why Man United have a case to answer. And you know what? I was waiting. Alan Shearer don't like Man United. Ian Wright, Ian Wright's not a big fan of Man United. And they were, you know what? They remember they were footballers. They remember they were footballers, and they looked at that and thought, nah, that's not happening. So that's the reason why. But anyway, first of all, big up to every one of you, please. Big up to every one of you in the chat. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit the notification button because it lets you know when you're live. We try to get to 7,000 by the end of February, people. We're on that
Come on, man. Let's do it.
Let's go, people. Let's go. I say this and I say this. I went to the commemoration today. Beautiful it turned out. The sun came out. The sun last year, it was pissing it down, raining, hailstone, and it was freezing and cold. But I went there today. Good turnout. Brilliant turnout. So Eric Ten Hag was there. All of the women's team manager was there. The 3 or 4 or 5 captains of the different teams, including the youth team, were all there. So they were all there laying the wreath. It was a beautiful moment, and we also celebrated, and obviously, sadly, the life of the fan who started this in 2000. He started this by saying, "I want to come and sing the Flowers of Manchester," which is the song that plays with Manchester United. And the Flowers of Manchester being the players. And he started it. So big up to that fan. He sadly passed away last year. Hold tight, his family. I forgot the guy's name, but hold tight, because now that happens yearly. Every year it happens. On the 6th of February, around half two till about 6:15, around half 2 till about half 3, commemorations is held just by the Munich Tunnel, right outside the placard that's on the wall there, with a clock 3:05 on there from the Munich air disaster. So obviously, a lot of families were there, a lot of people are there associated with Man. And it's a beautiful day because it's generational. You've got 90-year-olds who remember the Busby babes, and I just want to give people just a bit of a feeling that it wasn't like no kind of millionaires who live in big houses now. Back in the day, footballers and the fans used to get on the same bus to the game. How mad is that?
True.
So imagine that. Imagine now you're getting on a bus. Eric Ten Hag's getting on the bus. Maguire, Bruno, Rashford, they're all getting on the bus, and you're all getting on the bus heading somewhere, and you're all chatting because some of you are from the same neighborhood or you live closer to each other. That's how it was. And I explained the reason, and I want to link it to what happened with City. Man United, that was the thing that made us global in terms of the tragedy. And I break it down in this way, people. It's an educational one today in terms of commemorating. We have to pass this knowledge on. It was passed on to me, and I'm passing it on, and we're passing it amongst ourselves. Those of you who don't know, we'll get to know. Those of you who know, you already know. But Manchester United had this incredible young team. So Matt Busby, a visionary, absolute maverick visionary coach who would travel the world. He was a man. He was originally from Scotland. He came and played in the north of England. He was the last player actually to captain and play for City and Liverpool as well. But he finished his career at Manchester United, and he became a Manchester United manager. Visionary, maverick man. He's there. You can see him on my other shoulder. He's above. He's there, right next to my other shoulder. Yeah. That's who you see there, right? That's why I always have to keep the history of Manchester.
Playing the football the Busby way, you know.
Exactly. So to understand it, it was after the Second World War. The world was becoming a bit more peaceful, and the world was being rebuilt again. and sport and entertainment, all those industries were becoming to the forefront. Now, Manchester, majority, like all the cities in the north of England, was the heartland of the Industrial Revolution. The reason why we're called the green and gold, the scarves that we have, and you see us with it, with the glazes out, right? Green and gold till the club is sold. It's because that is our roots. Manchester United was set up originally in an area of Manchester called Newton Heath. By Newton Heath railway workers who set up the football club. This is where we're getting historical today, people. We're getting historical. We're going to tell it, and we're going to tell the story. We're going to tell it properly. So to understand it is that Sir Matt Busby took us on this incredible journey with this young team. This young team, Saeed and Tom, were talked about so much. It was only through radio, the main medium that was used. There was no phones, no Twitter, no internet. It was radio. Mainly it was radio and newspapers. And the team...
I went to I think it was a gala dinner that the family of the Busby Bays were there, man. And I was speaking to the family of like Duncan Edwards, man, and they were saying to like he was such a wonderful player, leader at such a young age, man. So, you know, when I hear the stories, I think it was about 2 years ago, I went with a dinner. Me, Aaron, a couple of other guys, went to a dinner and like a forum. And yeah, man, to hear the news, to hear this like the story and the kind of the history behind these young men who kind of led Man United to so many kind of situations and the history that they brought with them and the kind of, you know, the community that they built and the spirit that they built, it was phenomenal, man. It was quite, you know, powerful to hear, man. So I can only like echo the thoughts of you, Nuruddin, man. And like I said,
facts.
I just want to say, just to add, listen, people in Brazil were hearing about this because at that time Pele was so good, Saeed, Pele was this incredible footballer, and people were like, he's the greatest footballer in the world. And people are like, oh, there's a guy called Duncan Edwards in England, and there's a team called the Busby Babes, nicknamed the Busby Babes, Manchester United. And people in Brazil were like, bring them over here then. Let's see how good they are. The people around the world wanted to see the Busby Babes because everybody, Saeed, it wasn't just that they were so young. It was the brand of football.
I know, the
football. Attacking, excitement football. And the reason why I was adding that, the Industrial Revolution, people in the North worked so hard. I did a degree in sports, Saeed, and I looked at the history of sport, right? History of sport, history of football. That was one of the modules I took, history of football. And I looked at how football became popular. So people used to work, right? Only Sunday you had off because it was a Christian country, still in Britain, still a Christian country. But obviously more multi-faith now, more multi-cultural. Back in the day, so you had Sunday off, but you used to work Saturday. And this is at a time where children and their parents and they used to be workhouses because people used to work so hard during the Industrial Revolution. And we came out of that work hard ethic. So then the things changed. The workers fought for their rights, Saeed, and then you had half Saturday. So you only worked half Saturday. So you would finish around 2:00 in time to go and watch football. And Sir Matt Busby's quote is that we have to entertain these hard-working men, women, and children who are coming to watch you. So Manchester United had this brand of exciting, attacking football and wing play. And that's why people fell in love with them and they went global. But Sir Matt Busby wasn't just content with that. He was like, we want to be the best in Europe. We want to battle against the best in Europe. We want to put our football into Europe. But the FA and this government at that time were like, why do you want to be involved in this? We've got the FA Cup. We've got the league titles. We don't need to be competing. And he insisted that the Busby Babes went out there and played against the best in Europe. And at that time, they're coming back from Sarajevo. If I'm not mistaken, they're coming back from Serbia. That's where they were coming back from. They touched down in Munich to refuel. Refuel. But the rule was you have to be back 2 days before
a scheduled game.
You had to be back in the country. And that's why the plane took off 3 times, people. That's the reason why the spark was lit because of the tragedy, Saeed. From that tragedy, from the death of these wonderful young players who were just incredible. British, they were all British. Some of them had Scottish heritage. Some of them came from the Midlands. Duncan Edwards came from the Midlands. Wolverhampton came from. And Some of them came from Scotland, some are Irish, some from Salford, one of the strikers. He's got incredible record. Like he came from Salford. So there's all of these incredible talent, ray of talent. And their lives were cut down short. So Matt Busby Saeed is in his deathbed.
Yeah.
He's read the rights. You know, when the priest comes and reads you their rights 3 times. 3 times thought he was going to die 3 times. And then back at home, Jimmy Murphy, his assistant, who was also the Welsh manager, is trying to keep everything together. Trying to find out what players they can get. Big up Real Madrid. Real Madrid offered us players. Clubs from the country offered us players. And he was like, no, we're going to see if we can get some of the old professionals to come back. And we can see if we get some of the youth to this. Man United, in a period of a decade, from the deathbed,
won the European trophy.
Won the European Cup and the first English team to win the European Cup. And that's what the Glazers were shitting on when they wanted a Super League. So the reason why I want to link it to Man City is that Man United's globally is from then. It's from that heritage. When Jose says football heritage, the real football heritage, Saeed, is with Man United. Because if the Busby Babes were alive and played, how many European Cups would they have won? How many league titles would they have won? That would have changed the trajectory and the history and the success of Man United. We would be alone. How many trebles would they have done in that time, Saeed? How many more they would have done because they were young men. And that is what is that is the if that tried to do that. But you know what? Instead, Saeed, globally, we are known everywhere. Everywhere. Known. People knew about football. They know Pele. They know Man United. They know Real Madrid, Barcelona. They know Santos in Brazil. They know the Brazilian football team, but they know everywhere where I've been.
That's why United Global. Yeah, you're right.
Man United,
you're right.
I spoke about. People said to me, Manchester.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say it's simple. And that's the reason why we are. And the reason why City can never buy that history. That's why they have to do blood doping on their finances to try to keep up with us. But they can never do it. Guilty or no guilty, we all knew they cooked the books. Me and Tom have talked about it enough times as well, Tom. They've been cooking books, and I said it, and I keep saying it. Vindicated again. But Tom, talk to me about the Busby Babes. What your family told you when you became a United fan. How you educated yourself about the history at that time. And I'll go to Saeed.
Yeah. Well, obviously you hear about, the stories that you get told and stuff about, like when obviously the plane had to go refueling and things like that. Because back in the day, technology and airliners weren't a case of like nowadays you can get a straight flight from Serbia to the UK if you needed to, Manchester to wherever in Serbia. Now, back in the day, you had to have 3-4 different commercial flights, and it was like traveling from country to country. Whereas with a lot of the football teams back in the day, it was a case of you had to refuel in every country that you stopped over or you flew over, and you always had to stop and refuel. So that is a case of what you said. And from my stories anyway, I heard about the story with Pele and stuff. All the Brazilian, football association at the time, stated about the Busby Babes and stated about this young team that had come from a city in England, because Manchester wasn't even well known even just as a city. The only city that anybody knew in England at the time was London. That's because it was the capital. But everybody will associate the capital of the North, now in England especially, would be Manchester. That is the capital of the North in many cases. Yeah. That's where this whole sort of thing originated from. And, sometimes you have something like a tragedy, or, you have a moral high, or you have a success in life, and it excels your status and it makes you well known, it makes you branded. For example, you have it with players over time. They win a Champions League or something, they've made it. Like, for example, you look at such as players like Lionel Messi. When he won that World Cup, he's finished his career. He's done everything that there is to do. He could have set it off into the sunset, retired, done it. He's seen it all, done it. The Busby Babes in that case put Manchester United on the map in terms of that young, hungry team that came from Manchester, all English, all fighting, fire hardened. And like you've just said, reading about with that team and what they could have succeeded in, I wouldn't say could have. I would say what they would have, because they was that good in the history and the legacy that they would have built to pledge this club even further afield, away from Liverpool. You wouldn't have the debate about 20 or 19 league titles. You wouldn't have that debate anymore. There wouldn't be any of that. There wouldn't be any of this to do with European cups or trophies because they were competing against the best teams in Europe, and they were a young team. And that's the traditions of Manchester United: is home growth, young players. And listen, and I've always said it with the likes of City and things like that. Listen, you can bring all the money in to the table, but the one thing that will make out more than money is hard working class people. And working class people in this country is what brings the foundations of our country together. That is what football is built on. People who go away, they will make enough money to feed their families. And if there's money left over at the end of the week, they'll go and have a few pints at the pub. They'll go and take their sons to the football or their daughters to the football every so often when they can. Listen, we're all struggling in these financial climates at the moment that we have in our country. And this isn't a political show. But when you take the characterisation of what you have with Manchester City, with all of these breaches, the FA and everything, right, have had to do an internal investigation for 4 years. 4 years to prove all this because they thought we've got them on maybe 3 or 4 charges. Let's let them continue breaking the law. Let's let them continue breaking the financial regulations. And before that financial regulator comes into play in the Premier League, which Gary Neville's been protesting about for years, before that comes in, let's make a big statement. Let's take the biggest and most dominating team in the last decade away from the league and let's make an example of them. And that's what they're going to do with City. And I always say it with any owner that comes into a football club, whether it's respective of Man United or not, they have to abide by the traditions and the history and the legacy of a football club. For example, any new owner that comes to Manchester United, I want them to go to the actual memorial site, either in Munich or you better still come to the one in Manchester. Read the poem, A Broken Plane, A Broken Dream, A Broken Heart, A Broken Team. No word said, a silent vow. We loved you then, we loved you now. Read that poem. Read it loud and proud to be a Manchester United owner. Because people at the end of the day, they give their blood, sweat and tears for this football club. They gave their blood for this football club on that plane. And that's what it means to be a true Manchester United fan. To know the history of that. They gave their blood to make this football club what it is today. And you have the people who are at the top of the food chain right now. They couldn't even be asked to come to the own memorial site. The Glazer family, the billionaire tycoons that they are.
Have they ever been?
I don't even think they've ever been. Listen, they have connections. They have people in Germany, in Munich, that they do dealings with. Go there, even if it's not on the Memorial Day. Do something. Show that you care.
When I was in Germany,
this is in Germany though. This is the thing, but they don't have this legacy. And like I say, people died for our football club. They gave their blood for it. Exactly. What do Manchester City have to show for it? Money and law breaking, financial law breaking. And at the end of the day, listen, I'll say it plain and simple to Chelsea fans. Roman Abramovich soon got sniffed out, didn't he? Out of Chelsea. Todd Bowley, all this £600 million, mate, it will come back to bite him in the arse because either FFP will bite him in the arse or the players that he signed on these 8 to 9 year contracts will bite him in the arse because half of them won't make the cut.
But Tom's and then he struck with it all. At 11 o'clock today, when the news broke, Todd Bowley had to go and change his pants. That's what
listen,
happened.
Mate. He was at that shredder machine, mate. He's ripping them documents apart, my guy.
Listen, big up to Kadane Dixon says, big up Nuruddin, you're relentless about Man United. I do, mate.
Man.
I've always been, mate. First time I went to Man United, I fell in love, mate. I got the book. Saeed, what does the Busby Babes mean to you? What do they mean to the history? What do they mean to the football club? And do you understand now how big? Without that, if you take the Busby Babes out of our history, we're not big as what we are now, mate.
That's where I'm gonna come from. I think that's where my message is like Busby Babes are basically the heart of Man United. You talk about people talk about Fergie, but Fergie was built on the Busby Babes. Fergie kind of carried on the legacy.
Yeah.
Busby Babes. So I think the kind of the natural cycle began from the Busby Babes, and like I said, man, that's why we have the song "Playing Football the Busby Way." We always link it back to that song. All these trophies that we've got 20 times, it started off and it kind of, happened because of the Busby Babes. So I think for me, what they did was incredible. The comeback story, it's all, and again, like I said to you, we kind of look back at things with sadness, but it's also joy and happiness. The way that they came back from that and transformed the team, and then to build to win the European trophy. So I just think it's an amazing story, and I think everybody should still, look upon the history and what they did and how special these young men were. And Bobby Charlton, and legend. At the time I think he was only 21 when it happened, but the kind of the comeback after that to lead Man United to title after title. It's an amazing story, and I think for me they'll always live on, man. You know what I mean? We'll continue to always remember them, and they're a part of the football club and the history and the fabric of the football club. So yeah, it's we always celebrate them, man. We always celebrate them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, big up everybody in the chat. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, people. Hit the notification button. It lets you know when we're next live, people. But yeah, this is Pep Guardiola. To me, he knows deep down, Saeed, and I'll come to you and I'll stay with you.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to doing we'll do the
preview
for the Leeds, yeah?
Yeah.
But I'll stay with you, Saeed. Pep Guardiola said this, right, in 2022, right? What do you think? That's a very strange thing to say as a manager of a football club. He basically says Pep Guardiola discussing an investigation of Man City in May 2022. If you lie to me the day after, I'm not here. I'll be out, and you will not be my friend anymore. Saeed.
Yeah. You know what? It's kind of mad. It's when that kind of aggressive kind of like it's got aggressive tones about it, because it's like he knows there's something, fishing. And it's like, what it is? It's more so not to the media. It's more so to the owner, to kind of like, you're almost kind of threatening them without threatening them. You know what I mean? You're kind of almost saying, the double meaning behind this. It's like, it's saying, listen, I'm probably speaking to you, the media, but listen, the football club, if they lied to me, I'm gone. I'm gone, mate. So he knows there's something going on there, fishy. Man City are sweating. They said we're surprised. The actual message and the statement was quite laughable when they said we're surprised by the Premier League and the foundings of the Premier League. I was like, come on, stop it. That guy. There's a meme out there. When it says like, "Oh, swear, man, I'll swear." Like, he's like, I'm shocked. You know what I mean? There's a meme there, and honestly, I was like, oh my days, man. But for me, I think they're guilty. I think, it's just a matter of time. You don't do this. This is unprecedented. Like the journalist said, it's very, very unprecedented, man. 100, what do you call it?
Violation charges, yeah.
Yeah, charges. Stating back to 10 years ago, 12 years ago. This is unprecedented, man. And Man City can't appeal it. They have to almost justify what has happened, really. They have to justify. And when you justify it and you then start to crack and then you start to show that, oh, well, I might be guilty, but I'm not as guilty. Listen, you're guilty. That's the main verdict. You are guilty. So then it's now a case of trying to cover the cracks, really. So let's see what they do. But I think for me, the message for me is, it's not Man City. I don't want to hear from Man City. I want to hear what the Premier League are going to do and if they're going to stand firm, because Man City will do what they do. They will bring their lawyers. They will bring whoever.
They can't.
Steve tried to tell me that I was part of the FBI when I started mentioning things on the Big Six. I was like, okay, we'll see. But then now we have to wait until the Premier League. What do? Do they budge over? Do they get scared? Do they get worried and say, oh, they might, as Steve said before, that, this could be defamation of character and they could, file a lawsuit. If they say, you know what, no, we've proved it and we've showed you so many documents to state A, B, C, D, E, and F. Like, if we've done that, what are you going to do? So, and listen, man, I've had family members ringing me today. They've all been worried. They've all been kind of almost like, yeah, man, seriously. It's like, I feel like for me now, I just think this is beautiful, man. And let's see what happens now. Now they can go back to Division 2 and be happy and proud, you know what I mean, when they don't win, because they've been justified not winning the Champions League by saying, listen, don't worry about us, man. We've been in Division 2 facing Oldham. Don't need to worry about the Champions League. So now they can have their wish in it, and let's see where they go.
This is it.
100%. Big up Khalis for many last achievement United Real Therapy. He says, Erifan, the original Red Devils nickname comes from the local rugby team, Salford Reds, who were referred to as Les Dables Rouges, means the Red Devils during the Tour of France, France in 1934. So this is like they were making a tour during bloody hell, just a year of the world, the World War, when the World War was about to kick off. Crazy. But big up to everybody. So hey, listen, it's only fair and simple. I say this, yeah. It exploded today. I went and I forensically went through it. So go and watch the Straight Jacket podcast. But all I say is there's a guy called Pinto who hacked Man City.
Rui Pinto.
This hacker who hacked loads of football clubs, by the way.
Yeah,
he came across emails and he came across City cooking the books, doing the financial doping. And I've always said to you, Tom, how the hell have they got this big global fan base who were buying the products and all these companies in the Middle East that want to sponsor them? Where's this coming from? But in one of the things that he hacked, one of the evidence he got is that basically City were ringing up companies in Dubai and all around Dubai and around the Middle East going, could you sponsor us for 40 million? By the way, I'll wire that 40 million to you. So you sponsor us. That's how they were doing it. The idea that they're making money. The idea.
But the thing is, Nuruddin, they don't why with all these organisations and sort of global companies, when they say we'll wire you £40 million, they don't mean we're just going to pay £40 million in a briefcase. We'll send people to the office and send it. What they will do is they will buy sort of assets within your country. Then you will pass the keys over to them to own it, and then they resell them on, and then that's how they get their money. And that's how legally you do it, because you can then fall back on your sword of it was a business transaction, not a financial transaction. That's how it works in many cases with, like you've just said, with the sponsorship. They could ring up Dubai and say, listen, we want your tourism board to sponsor our shirts for next season. Dubai could say, okay, yeah, that's fine. What sort of pledged investment are you going to give us? Well, we will invest in your economic project to build, I don't know, a new skyscraper, for example. We'll invest in that. They can invest £40 million into that. All they have to do then is spend a quarter of the £40 million. They could spend 10 million of that on the actual project. The £30 million, they can pull away from the project, because then they can say, well, at least we invested something rather than investing nothing. And that's how they get round it. And listen, with all these violations with Manchester City and this, that, the other, listen, I said 10 years ago, these people, when there was these little leaks that were coming out from people who had left Manchester City just after the takeover had happened, and they were getting rid of people and stuff, just particularly, ironically enough, who works in the financial ruling department, who had actually had executive roles at the Premier League. They got rid of them. Funnily enough, down the line, then you're hearing things like, I can't remember if it was a year or two ago, they put out their financial records that every Premier League club is legally due by to do. They've made plus of £722.4 million revenues. However, they don't fill out a stadium capacity, so you can't say it's from ticket sales. Shirt sales were actually down from last year, given the fact of the climate that they had to come out of with COVID and everything from the last couple of years. So the figures were down there. You can't make any more pledged investment because of the new laws that are in place with the anti-glazer clauses, where you have to make investment due to the dividends clauses that are in football nowadays. And ergo, there's no football regulator in place, so you can get away with moving money out how much ever you want. And like Nuruddin's already broke it down on the Straight Jacket podcast. Please, anybody in the chat or anybody who's watching, go and watch the Straight Jacket podcast anyway. We're what Nuruddin broke it down, where he said, listen, you could say that you're making £700 million revenues. You can say it, yes. But it's got to be in carbon copy, pen and paper. If you don't have £7 million, dollar bills rolling through your cash book, rolling through the tickets or the sales or anything, so you've not made that. Therefore, you've lied. And legally, if you lie verbally, you can just say, well, he said that, she said that. But if you have to write it, like they've had to put on public figures, they've had to put on documents, that's our financials report, Richard Master at the Premier Leagues. We've made 700 plus revenues, but say you only make 420, right? The numbers don't add up. You're missing nearly £280 million here. Where's £280 million? Oh, we spent £100 million on Jack Grealish, didn't we? We spent £50 million on Erling Haaland. We spent money here, there, and everywhere. We invested more in the women's stadium and this, that, the other. We redeveloped the training ground and things like that. Suddenly, then you're scraping around the barrel to come up with an excuse as to why. But just the final point, anyway, on this City thing before we move on to the preview. Anyway, the only thing that I'm going to say with this is City. They hired 55 of Europeans' best lawyers to get them out of the UEFA clause. The way that they got out of the UEFA thing was, I think everybody on this table or anybody in the chat, they was not 100% about getting that appeal overturned, because if they was above board and they was consented of that they'd done nothing wrong and they was innocent, UEFA have a clause in place for 5-year as it's like financial purpose clause or something like that, where they can investigate a club for 5 years. When they actually came out publicly and said that they were suspending Manchester City and they were going to terminate them for 2 years from European competitions, there was 1 year left on that investigation. Manchester City did not give them any transparency. They let the time run out, so then the case gets thrown out. And if, like with what we've just seen with the Mason Greenwood thing,
Tom,
cases get thrown out at the end of the day.
limited UEFA was for 5 years,
but you don't get it for 5 years. This is the thing, though, Nuruddin. You can say then, oh, well, it's innocent until proven guilty. Now, in this case, with the Premier League, this is the thing. Manchester City can control UEFA because they are a member of UEFA. The Premier League effectively own Manchester City. They took control of Chelsea Football Club away from Roman Abramovich. That's how massive that incident became. They can take a football club away from an owner. And that's the thing, Saeed. If this doesn't transpire and Manchester City don't start showing some form of documents or transparency to the Premier League can easily just say, right, well, we'll either pursue you for liable and we'll go through with our process of whatever clauses. And if we find you guilty, we can give you any penalties that we want. Fines, points deductions, relegations, postponement of assets, player sales, or anything like that. We can take all that away from you. But then the final thing that we can also do on the side and on the slide is we'll get the UK government involved. Then the ownership then is under threat, because then all of the takeover at the time, that will get over-relayed by the British government, just like Roman Abramovich takeover got with Russia and all those involvements with the different oligarchs. And then they will investigate the UAE and Sheikh Mansour, and then he, legally, under the financial courts of the world, has then got to put all his finances on the table, and he's got to open all these doors to everything that he owns, all his finances, and he's got to prove it all. And if he can't do it, he's got to sell Manchester City Football Club. Then all of a sudden, what are Manchester City then?
Yeah.
No oil money. They ain't a fucking club.
Back to Stockport. Back to
Stockport. I've just broken it down for you all there financially.
Exactly. Big up.
Which one you have?
Yeah, big up. It says the potential punishment awaiting Man City: ban on playing matches, a ban on reduction, replaying matches. I don't think they're going to do replay matches. Expulsion from the Premier League. Forget heavy fine. They need to take that one out. Unregistered players.
No.
They need to do. It's unregistered sub, and then the last, most important one, people. Any other sanction of the Premier League deems appropriate. So let me just quickly break it down for you. Quickly, in 2 minutes, I'm going to quickly run through this quickly. There's a guy. We love you, Pinto. We do. We love you, Pinto. We do. We love you, Pinto. We do. Oh, Pinto, we love you. Hold tight, Pinto, the hacker. Hacker the Pinto. I've got a couple of friends who are hackers. Hold tight. You know who you are.
Don't bait them out.
You know who you are, yeah? Big up Pinto. Pinto basically he hacked loads of football clubs. He came through, like I said, I'm going to have to repeat this quickly. He came through some dodginess that they were doing. Man City were doing some absolute dodginess, clear, absolute breaking all of the breaches of financial fair play. And the thing with financial fair play, people, is it's about the clubs doing things in good faith.
Yes.
The associate, whatever the Premier League,
it's the governing body, isn't it, Nuruddin, at the end of the day?
Eredivisie whether it's the Bundesliga, wherever it is, all about comply. And then UEFA and FIFA as well. Always doing things in good faith, sorting your finances out. Man City were not doing that. They were buying Robinho, spending, splashing the cash like it was water, throwing it all around. And everybody, and then people are like, well, how are they doing this? There's even a record now. In 2009, City made 20 million profits. From where? From the 10 fans from Stockport. Where? How? How
City is yours. The city is yours.
yours.
You need to sing that on there Wednesday.
Are you effing sure?
I can't wait for Wednesday. Nuruddin, you need to start that chant in the Stretford End.
I'm saying it. Listen, I'm doing the chant, mate. I'm doing Rio Punto. Whoa, we love you, Rio Punto. We do. I'm going to start that chant. And I say this quite simple, people. UEFA investigated them. City never complied. They never let the UEFA come in. Financial UEFA come in. Look at the accounts. They obfuscated, waited for the time to run out. And then they went and done a runner. But I always say, Saeed, and to you, Tom, at that time, and I said it on here, and I said it on the Straight Jacket podcast, if you're innocent, why are you paying 10 million? Why? It's like me accusing Saeed of something. Saeed is innocent, but he gives me 10 million.
Well, Nuruddin, if you're innocent, why do you need all these lawyers to rock up with you? We saw the pictures. You had 55 lawyers. You had Eid Mubarak, the chairman, walking through all of it. Mate, it was like Vince McMahon were walking through his congregation, man. Throwing dollar bills around. But at the end of the day, these people, and listen, we will all say it at the end of the day, with Manchester City, in the case of that, we know about the brown envelopes and all this, that, the other. But the only thing I'm going to say is, we've heard about the scandals with FIFA. We've heard about the involvement that UEFA had in all that sort of stuff and that. That's Europe. That's fine. This is Britain. This is Britain. You're not in the UAE now. You're not in the Middle East. You're not in the Wild West in America. You're not in Europe. You're dealing with Britain, and you're dealing with the organisation that is the Premier League. And if the Premier League follow through on their regulatory rules at the end of the day, and they go through the due diligence process that they need to do, because the only thing that Manchester City can do now is they can't sue the Premier League for abiding by their guidelines and governing body rule and regulations. The only thing that the Premier League or Manchester City can do right now is they have to agree. They have to agree to disagree in many cases. And what I mean by that is the Manchester City have to open their doors to the Premier League Financials Department officials to allow them to regulate their finances all the way back from the dates of 2009-10 all the way to the 2017-18 season. And then they have to transparent that over from the actual records that are in Manchester City's database, network and firewall department on their internet protocoling. They have to take all of that and then they have to go and have a look at it in comparison with the figures and finances that they have in place when they've done their investigation for the last 4 years. And if they don't match, well, you've got the official figures from Manchester City and you've got our official figures that we've worked out. Suddenly, oh shit.
Good night,
they
Vienna.
Don't add up. Good night, Vienna. There you go.
It's a good night, Vienna for Man City. But listen, let's get into let's move on to the Leeds. We've said what we've said. We'll do it again. We'll have more shows exposing it. I'll do it great, honestly. Me and Tom and Saeed will do it next week. We'll do it through 5.
Yeah, we'll break it down.
We'll break it down.
You never know. There could be stories coming up, like for now until the foreseeable future.
Exactly. Big up Alien Tenors of Derby nearly went out of extinction with their loss. Yeah, of course. 100%.
You know what, though? It's a kick in the teeth, though. It's a kick in the teeth to Derby, people like Berry, people like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Went out of extinction, exactly. In the past, Premier League has dealt with City with a wink and a nod. Now the horse is out of the barn. The Premier League worried about Newcastle owners doing the same as City owners. Exactly. And that's why Newcastle owners have not moved mad. That's why they're not moved mad.
They're facts.
They know Man City have been under investigation. And I said on Saeed's TV, Saeed TV, by the way, I said it then. I'll apologize to every City fan. I'll go outside the empty yard and I'll apologize to them. Even though there's 5 or 6 of them with that blind dog, Saeed. I always told you. There was 5 or 6 of them and a one blind dog. And he kept saying, no, don't say that. Yes, I can say it. I will apologize to the blind dog as well. Even if he keeps them happy. And I'll apologize to everybody. But I'm telling you now, it's all because the financial regulator has been threatened. And hold tight, Gary Neville. Gary Neville is the red. is a red.
But they're pushing it back 2 days now. Apparently, they're pushing it back 2 days or something
Yeah,
like that.
no problem. Listen, Saeed, no problem. It will be what will be. But let's move on to our Chris Amos. Same as he said, since he gets points deducted, Arsenal win the league. All I'll triple my super chat budget next season if we do. Get it! Then Samiasi is about. Better watch out, people. Samiasi, please make me another promise. You let me and Saeed own the rights to that documentary. Who is the real Samiasi? I've never smoked shisha. I'll come and do it with you. I'll get on that pipe with
The
you.
Gooner Swindler.
The Gooner Swindler.
Listen, I'll do it with you. But quickly, man called a fella called Chris Amos is coming to visit Man United.
Chris Amos, yes.
The AirPod man. The AirPod man.
AirPods, man.
AirPod man is about better watch out. Talk to me, Saeed. What do you reckon
man.
is Leeds sacking their manager? You watched that game. Did you watch along for Leeds?
Yeah, no. I watched the game though. They were poor. They just had a lot of the ball, but didn't really do anything. They've got dangerous players, man. They've got a good team. Like
the way they hold the ball down, Saeed, the way they press.
That's what I said, and I feel like for me, the amount of games we're playing, I think that's going to be a worry for me on Wednesday. The way they press, the way they move around, they've got good midfielders in there. It's just again, you know, what I mean, they just got this goal scoring at the minute. Their lack of goals is a bit alarming for me. You know, they're heavily relying on is it the striker up front, but he hasn't scored enough goals as well.
Bamford,
Bamford, yeah. So they haven't got a natural goal scorer. I think Rodrigo started the season on fire, but then he's kind of filtered away.
Well, he's injured now, isn't he? I think
he's injured as well. So listen, I think it'll be a tough game. I really do. You know what it is? Manager bounce and no manager bounce. I just think for me, it's that kind of game where United have got to get goal early. Get the goal early, calm the nerves down. Then let them come at us, and then we hit them with the second goal. That's what it's going to be for me, because the longer we keep it, I think they'll be more fitter than us. I think they'll be more kind of fresh than us. So we've got to get that early goal first. So, yeah, for me, I'm not going to lie to you. And again, the manager bounce. Whether it's not a new manager or not, you're always going to have that bounce. It's just, I don't know what it is in football. All of a sudden, they can play football. They can't play football, and they're losing ideas. And then when the manager leaves, all of a sudden, they just click into gear. And I'm like, what is going on? Aston Villa was so bad. They get good evening and boom, they're straight in there. Luckily for us, we might not have that. But then again, Chris Amos, you know, you see what happened with Conte. Look what happened with Conte. The guy wasn't there. Who's the other guy? Who's he called?
The coach guy,
Stellini, yeah.
Stellini came out and did a masterclass. So Chris Amos, I hope he's got his AirPods in. I hope he's listening to something else and whatnot. I just hope you don't start tomorrow. And then obviously we got them on Sunday. It's an absolute joke, man. So they could have Wednesday and then Sunday they could have we could have 2 manager bounces in one go.
Saeed, apparently according to reports, they're saying he's in charge for the next 2 games. So apparently after the next 2 games, they're going to sort a manager out. But you never know. You never know. Big up Samias. The owners could sell City, buy United, start all over the world, buy Arsenal. Listen, we don't need them. We don't want them. Hold tight, Saeed, by the way. He's probably getting ready for his big six on tonight. Big up. Listen, I say it simple. For me, the press, the intensity which they play with, they've got a youth team. They've got a really young team that's fit and able. The only thing, Tom, is that it's been putting the ball at the back of the net. Majority of their games that I've watched, they dominate the game. They strangle the team by literally pressing the hell out of them. But once it gets to the last third, they just run out of ideas. And obviously, Bamford has been out. He's had a horrific injury record. He's been out for a long time. But what do you think their chances? Do you think that new Chris Amos bounce will come when they come on Wednesday? It's a massive derby. It's a rivalry to them. You see how they got on? They were beating people up on Sunday. They were fighting with it amongst themselves. I think there could be violence. I could think there could be violence, by the way. But go on.
Yeah. Well, listen, the way I look at this with Chris Amos and things like that taking charge of the Leeds team is, it's not a case. I think it's a case of that he's going to look at what he saw at Manchester United with them players that was there. But the only thing is, there's a few different players that are there, and the team that he took that he was in control of, along with Ralph Ragnick and Ewan Sharp and all them guys who were on the coaching staff for Ralph Ragnick. The only thing that you can say in that case was that he worked with a group of players that were low on confidence, low on esteem, didn't have any fight, any desire, nothing. They had jack all. Whereas this Leeds team is hungry, it's desirable. Like there's a fight, there's a spirit about them. It is there, regardless of they've not been getting the results or not. You can see that there is something there at the end of the day. And yeah, people will say, well, might get a new manager bounce and stuff like this. If I'm being totally honest, I don't see it. I really don't see it because listen, if Chris Armas was this brilliant coach and mastermind that he is, he would be working for some of the best German managers in football right now because we know about the Austrian German sort of manager role connections through Leipzig, New York Red Bulls, New York Salzburg. It's all intertwined. It's all linked. And German coaches love Austrian, Dutch sort of philosophers of football and coach, people who know control, pressing, the modern day way of playing football. If Chris Armas was this great innovator, Manchester United would have kept him on. Ten Hag's a Dutch coach. He plays that philosophy of football. He would have looked at Chris Armas and thought, shall I take him onto my team? No, I'll take Eric Ramsey instead because he's a set-piece coach. He's young, he's vibrant. I'll give him an opportunity. And he's not let him down at this moment in time. But I look at the whole situation anyway with Leeds and stuff and sacking the manager at this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, I don't honestly believe that Leeds can pose a threat, like you said, in the final third. I think, listen, on transitions, if we get caught out far up the field, then yes, I would potentially say panic in many cases. But they don't have that goal threat that's been there with them. Like the first season in the Premier League, Bamford was scoring for fun. He was one of the best strikers in the league in that season. You had Rodrigo as well, who's had dips in form and shows glimpses, obviously out injured now. But, they have the players especially in midfield that are very controlling. They're very press resistant, control sort of players. Me personally, I've always rated Tyler Adams for me. We saw him at the World Cup for America. He captained the American national team, the USA team, and the way that he has that leadership, that fight, that desire, you need players for like that for these sort of games. And at the end of the day, I look at such as, when we need an understudy such as Casemiro or that projection player to take over, Tyler Adams personally for me would be one of those players. He has that desire, he has that fight and that engine. And when we were getting linked to such as Calvin Phillips and things like that, I always looked at Tyler Adams and I thought, I think Tyler Adams is a better player than Calvin Phillips. And in hindsight, yeah, I've been proved right. But I said that from day dawn, and I think he is one of their best players in terms of the control that he can give them. But with Chris Armas as the coach, I'll be real and honest. I'll keep it short and sweet at the end of the day. I don't see where this change is going to come from, where this switch is going to come from, because he's got the same amount of days that Eric Ten Hag has had, maybe even less, to put a plan together for this game. I think all they can really do is just go out there, press on the front foot, play how we've been playing under Jesse Marsh, and then we can reevaluate and reassess after I get one game with the squad, and then we'll see and then we'll take it from there for maybe the return fixture at Ellen Road. But at the end of the day, the conjunction of fixtures is killing us. You talk about Leeds strangled teams and pressing them and that. Listen, the FA and stuff are strangling Man United at the moment. So with these fixture congestions and things, so at the end of the day, we need to stay grounded. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that we don't go too far in our approach and get ahead of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we've had games with Leeds where it's been high scoring. We've also had games where it's been they've given us a game. They've gone for it. They used to do it under Bielsa, but we blew them away at the end of the day. But that's the only comment I would say with Chris Armas. I don't really see what he's going to bring to the table. And I think if we don't, I'd be surprised if we don't whitewash them 3-0, something like that.
I'm not as confident as you, Tom, 100%. You know why? Because they've been dominating games. So this is the stats from their game against Nottingham Forest, yeah? Nottingham Forest were at home. Leeds had 70% possession. They had 10 shots, 4 on target, and Navas made brilliant saves. How's the Henderson getting back in that team when Navas is on this form? I'm telling you now.
But he's a Champions League, multiple Champions League winner as well, isn't he? So
it's gonna be surreal because Navas looked like he's been there for a decade, mate. 4 on target. They had 2 corners and they committed 14 fouls. So to me, Leeds, the approach work is brilliant. I'm not going to lie to you. They just kept missing chances, and Navas made brilliant saves against them, run really good saves against them. And some of the finishing was less desired. But in terms of us dominating again, we need to know how to play through their press. That's the most important thing. What we need to is know how to play through their press. But big up Windy. Windy says Chris Amos has only got to Leeds a few weeks ago. Does Amos know how these players? Leeds threat is them fighting to not get relegated. That's the thing. Of course, they're going to fight. And because it's Man United, their fans are going to be up for it. So all of those players are going to be known about the history of Man United. A lot of them, they've got a couple of players who play for the US team as well. But the biggest thing to me is that they're fit and they can get around that pitch. So Sabitzer, Bruno, Fred, they're going to have their work cut out. I'm telling you, in that midfield, because if the ball is going to be transition the game, is that what happens, Tom, is that when we win the ball back transitionally in midfield, we need to get our chances. We have to take our chances. We must take our chances. That's how you beat Leeds, because once you win the ball back against them, and then you go at their defense is not that great. They concede goals. So, and then you just got to defend tight against them and hit them on the counter. That's what you've got to do, because they're going to try and to win the ball back. Man United's passing has got to be A1 for us to win this game. And to beat their press, you've got to be able to beat their press, because the way they press and hunt impacts, you can't be dilly-dallying with the ball in your last third. And we saw that in certain times when Arsenal pressed us really high. We can struggle at times. So the ball to forecast is going to be very important. And I really hope that Ten Hag is working on that today, tomorrow, and basically till the game on Wednesday night. But at the end of the day, they to me, if they go down, I'll be shocked, because they've got so many good players. They just needed a striker. I'm like, why are you signing all these other players when you know that Rodrigo's dried up? Bamford is just coming back to playing first team football. You need goals. Instead, you signed all these wingers and all these other midfielders. You need a guy who's going to put the ball at the back of the net. You need one or two guys, because the hardest thing in football, people, is getting that ball at the back of that net. And at this moment, but in terms of United, Tom, just give you that's the midfield for me. I'm telling you now, he has to come in. He has to, because Casemiro's out now. He has to. Sabitzer's got to come in, and he's got to play as that number 6, because Fred cannot play that. We already know he can't play that. So Sabitzer has to play that, and Bruno has to play a bit deeper, and we cannot afford to be lackadaisical. And
okay. So you're playing Bruno Sabitzer. Who else you playing?
Fred, because that's who's available. Nobody else. We're not going to play 17-year-old Kobe Manu, are we?
Well, no.
The three midfielders that we've got fit and who are not suspended is Fred, Sabitzer, and Bruno.
The only thing that I could see potentially that he could try and do is, I think he will play Bruno and Sabitzer, but I think he'll play them both as 8s. I don't think you'll have any attacking midfielder. Like, Bruno won't be making these bombing runs that he does and being that wildfire card where there's that free role to operate in. I think him and Sabitzer will share the responsibility as number 8s. In terms of who's going to play 6, I'll be fair and honest. I think he's going to try and use Fred coming off the bench when you have Leeds maybe pinch the back of their goal, when you need somebody who's going to press them further up the field, fresher legs, can obviously play a killer pass from deeper sort of areas if we need to play it. And if they're going to play the high line as well, I think Fred's good at combating it up the field as well and winning the ball back high up the field for us. But the only thing I'm going to say in that regard is, if we're going to look at the sort of plan of this and that, I still think you need somebody who's. I'm going to say, I think you need somebody who's nasty. I think you need somebody who's going to put tackles in, who's not going to be afraid of getting a yellow card to play CDM. And for me, I don't think Fred's got that. I really don't. I think, he can hack down a player in this, that, the other, but physically, it just ain't it at the end of the day. And
the only thing I would say to you, Tom, is that jot your memory back. The only games I actually see Fred having fantastic games is against Leeds and Man City.
But this is the only thing that I'm saying in that regard is, I would just simply think that Sabitzer, I think in many cases, is a better Fred.
No,
he's more mobile, he's progressive, and that's why I would play him.
Yeah,
and the
but
reason
I know
why,
that. I'll be absolutely gobsmacked, Tom. I mean, you might be right, but I'll be gobsmacked if Fred's not in the team.
Personally, I would swap him out. I would play I'd
Who
play
you gonna play then?
I play Martinez CDM, if I'm honest. I would play Martinez CDM, and I'll give you the context and reason why. Because Malacia for me has to play in this game. It's Derby. It's physical. It's aggressive. And in
Okay.
those games where we've seen against Liverpool, that's why I would play him left back. I would play Shaw left centre back because he's done the jobs against the best strikers in the league in Erling Haaland in Manchester derbies, for example. So I think he can handle the pressure of if Patrick Bamford bunches up on him. We already know Varane's rock solid anyway, Rolls Royce of a defender. For me, AWB will play. So I think the back four itself is compactiveness. And you also keep Martinez, who we know is good on the ball, can play a brilliant pass forward, and he can play between the lines. He's done it before when he's been in the Ajax system where they had nobody to play. Enzo Fernandez was out. Kudas couldn't play in the game, so they played Martinez CDM. Long and behold, he was running around the field operating as if he was one of the best CDMs in the world at that particular time. And yes, it was against Hereven or whatever it is in the Eredivisie. But I look at the game and how you can impact it. And I just think that for me, a player who's going to be aggressive, who's going to be controlling it, or that authoritarian sort of player that we have, we missed that with Casemiro. And that's why I suggested to play that against Arsenal. Because I said to you, everybody, that Shaw will get cooked by Bukayo Saka. He gets cooked in the England squad when they play against each other. And he will get cooked against Arsenal versus Man United. And long and behold, he did. And that's why, for me, I would have played Malacia, someone who's more attentive, more physical, lay straight into him. If you get booked, go into the back of him and get booked. Make sure that he knows that you're there. And Luke Shaw didn't do that, and he backed off and backed off. And that's what ended up losing the game.
Luke Shaw was a disgrace. You know that what's that left back for Everton? Lavinchenko.
No, the Ukrainian kid.
Yeah.
Oh, Mikalenko.
Mikalenko did a job on him. Listen, I'm going to get the same Miasi. Thanks for the super chat. He says, United for life. We have Balogun coming back next season. He's got more goals than Mbappe and better at his age than Rashford was. Plus Rice, Casado coming in the summer.
Oh, Christ. Have you got a bit of that Todd Bowley money, my guy?
He's got that. To tell us, is Todd Bowley going to sign for Arsenal? Is that what's happening? Is that what's happening? Todd Bowley's splashing.
Listen, do you know what's funny though, Nuruddin? Let's just have a little. Let me just have a little comment at Arsenal anyway. It's funny how when one season changes and they actually start progressing as a team, the owners have found all this money all of a sudden. They found all this investment that they can get when they've actually made a winning team, which can compete and then win them the big prize money in competitions. They're suddenly willing to invest now, aren't they? Because I've not heard Kroenke out since the Super League, and I don't know even that was like 2-3 years ago now, wasn't it?
Exactly.
But listen, at the end of the day, we go into games like such as with Leeds, just play on the front foot. The only thing I'm going to say is, don't change anything. Play our own game. We have a set way of playing now. We don't need to change it for whoever we play against. Like when we play against Liverpool, City, I always said it. I want us to go on the front foot. I want us to play our own game. Don't think that you have to change the formation to counteract them. No, go with what you think's best and go with your game and impact it and see how it does against them. If it doesn't work, you run the risk of taking it. But for me, I think Ten Hag's smart enough to look at this game and think, listen, I need players who are going to be physical, who's going to be aggressive, who's going to be, up for the fight. Malacia, Martinez, for me, that is why I think those two need to come into the team. Martinez in the CDM role to give us that control, that leadership, that authoritarian sort of, unique style to the midfield that Casemiro normally brings us. And then you play Malacia left back and play Shaw left centre back. It's worked before. I couldn't see why it shouldn't work now. And like you say, then in the latter stages of the game, you bring on Fred, for example, and then you can take off Shaw if need be. Martinez can slot back, left centre back. If you've got the job done 2-3-0 up or something like that, you can take these risks, rest a couple of players. Because we've already seen with what happens to Eriksen. Martial can't stay fit as a fiddle for anything. Listen, his bones are made of candy floss at this moment in time. But when we go through these crises and that we're having at the moment, we need every player that we can at this moment in time. So we need to savour it. And same thing with the Casemiro thing. I look at it from the positive side of thinking, listen, we've got 2 games against Leeds, who are not on any form at the moment in time. They're managerless. So I don't even think you need Casemiro to play against 2 games against Leeds. And the other game, I think, is against Forest, I think. I can't remember who the other game's against. Oh, no, sorry, Leicester, sorry. Which I think we can get by in that game if you just stop James Maddison. So I look at those games, I just think, we can do it without Casemiro. Let him have a couple of weeks rest. He's played nearly every game since he's come here. Even in the cup games when we think that we don't need to go full strength, Ten Hag persists and he plays him. So at the end of the day, I don't think we need to think it. And for me, Nuruddin, I don't know if you've seen it anyway with Casemiro. I think the Palace game in particular, I think it got to him. I think they got, not the game that we've just had where he got sent off, but the game at Selhurst Park, I think they rattled him. And they opened up that Casemiro of old that we've seen where he's rational. He'll take somebody out if he needs to. He'll stud somebody. He'll take one for the team if you say that. I just think that they've got in his head, and ever since then, in a lot of the games, he's a lot more attentive. He's a lot more aggressive now. We're seeing the old Casemiro that we saw at Real Madrid, the nastiness come out. We were seeing the Brazilian side of the player at the end of the day. That's what I'm trying to get at in this case. Even when we played against Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White was giving him the runaround. He two-footed him and got away with no card at the end of the day because the referee didn't see. These sort of things I'm looking at, I'm picking up and I'm thinking, I think teams have got in his head a little bit. And to have that couple of weeks rest before the Carabao Cup final to reset, I think would do him the bestest of good because he can have a couple of weeks off rest physically. And then also, like we say, psychologically and mentally, it affects players when they play every single game, week in, week out. And like you say, at the end of the season, these players, they deserve a couple of weeks rest off. When you think about the intensity, I will say that this season, Nuruddin, these players deserve that holiday break that they get at the end of a season. Those 3 weeks off with their families to go on holiday, Dubai, America, wherever you want to go. They deserve it because they've worked the socks off.
100%. Just going back to the game, I think what you said playing Martinez, Sabitzer and Bruno, 100% makes sense, and having somebody off the bench. But I just, from the way that the game panned out, I think he will have Lindelof on the bench. I think Martinez will play in defense. I agree with you. I think we should try that. But I think Lindelof will be the guy to come on for Fred or somebody, or Sabitzer or somebody from midfield. I think maybe even what's the name might start. Lindelof might start as the midfield player because he played in midfield against Reading in the FA Cup. He played in midfield for about 15-20 minutes. He played in midfield, and he also
the way that we play anyway, though, with the inverted fullback in midfield, don't we? So, but what I'm saying is when we go forward anyway in control, like AWB ends up playing as like the CDM anyway, and you have another player forward. So this is it.
It's going to be one fascinating game, people. Leeds, we call them Leeds scum. They're violent fans. Not all Leeds. I love Leeds as a city. I love the people from Leeds. I love Yorkshire people. They make me laugh. They're just some of the most gritty people in the world, people. Gritty ain't the word. Get in your face and tell you, if you're the views, Tom loses his temper, I feel bad for you. If you ever meet Tom in real life and Tom loses his temper, I feel sorry for you.
It's very rare it comes out, but it has come out.
They come out. I'm telling you.
Your true self does end up coming out in the end, put it that way.
Exactly. He'll bite your head off. He'll bite your head off. That Tom journalist, he'll bite your head off. Listen, it is what it is. I'm really looking forward to this because last season I didn't go to. I was at Old Trafford actually. Yeah, I was there when we beat them. But the year before, it was lockdown, innit, when we smashed them, and none of us were there. Big up to Tom and Saeed, people. Go and check out the Straight Jacket podcast because we're having it. We're going mad, people. We're going mad. We're having it. So big up to every one of you. I think quickly, just to score prediction. Listen, I'm not asked about. I know it's a big game. I know we want to show the world that Man United are back, but I'm not asked about the Europa League. I just want to get out of that competition quick as we can, me personally. I want to focus. The league is your bread and butter. I want Man United to finish highest they can in the league. And on the form that we're on, and hopefully Casemiro comes back, we could finish, I think, third. If City start dropping points, if Liverpool and Chelsea start dropping points, Man United keep winning, then we're going to finish third or second. I think we could finish highest we can in that table, right? I'm not lying to you. A secure top 4, we can do that. But big up to the guys. Well, somebody saying that they've bought a striker. I'm talking about well-known striker who can bag goals, because they had Bamford up front the other day. What I watched of that game against Nottingham Forest, and none of them could score, mate. None of them could score. I'm talking about somebody of worthy that they can spend proper money on to get them out of this relegation hellhole, because they're dropping into that relegation zone, mate. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to be a very fascinating game and a very interesting game. How I think we finish? I think if Liverpool, Chelsea, and we keep winning, right? That's what it is. If we keep winning, because obviously we're just seeing what we are. Our form at the moment, we've got momentum. And even when we lose a game, we come back again and we go on a next run. And I want Man United to win these next 3 games. Leicester are finding form again. These 2 lead games, if we can pick up 9 points, Man United are finishing 3rd in the Premier League. I think so far from what I can see. So I'll put my neck out and say that. It's going to be, I think, what do you think the score's going to be? I'm going for 2-1 Man United. No, 1-0 Man United. That's what I'm going for. 1-0. I predicted that. I got the Palace score right. I said it's going to be 2-1. I think it might be 1-0 Man United, but I'll take it. What do you guys think was going to be? Let me know, please, when you watch this video in the comments. But win, lose, or draw, Glazers out, Bankers out. Man City, you got caught with your pants down, and it's time to pay up. 20,000 empty seats. Are you effing sure the city is yours? The city is yours. 20,000 empty seats. Are you effing sure, people? Are you effing sure? Like I said, his name is Rui Pinto. There's only one 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 Rui Pinto. If he was up to me, I'll give him the freedom of Manchester, especially on the red side. I will be lobbying the mayor of Manchester to give Rui Pinto the keys to Manchester for exposing that fraud across the road. Peace, love, light. We get out. But City, guilty, guilty, guilty. Where are the City fans? None of them are answering. None of them are answering my phone calls or my WhatsApp messages or my Instagram, or I'm trying to get hold of them. They're nowhere to be seen. Glazers out, Bankers out. Go on, United.